So the by-elections last night, 3 by-elections. I could think of no one better than to go through this and dissect them. There's a medical term. Peter Cardwell, Talk Radio's political editor. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Looking very like the man from Del Monte, if you
Well, I like to say yes.
well, indeed. It's very, very, very tropical. Right, so just in terms of where we are, if people are waking up, these are very much a mixed bag, aren't they? No doubt the Conservative Party, I think this is a pretty shocking night for the Conservative Party. The only redeeming feature, of course, being Uxbridge. Now, I think that's all down to Ulez.
You win some, you lose some. Definitely, when it comes to by-elections. I stole it off someone on Twitter. So, yes, it is fascinating. Somerton and Frome, the Lib Dems have done really, really well.
Plus 28.
Yeah, huge swing there. They're very good at by-elections. They have a lot of local activists. And interesting if you look at the tactical voting as well, both in Somerton and in Selby. So let's at Somerton first. You've got Labour in 5th place. So there was definite tactical voting going on here. And then you go north to North Yorkshire, and we have Selby, and the fact that the Lib Dems were in 5th place. Labour winning there. Huge victory for them as well, overturning 20,000 odd majority. What is a safe seat anymore? 25-year-old Labour candidate who has won there.
I mean, it's extraordinary, actually. And in fact, the pollsters were right, and the Conservative Party was briefing that if you had a majority under 20,000, you're not safe. Now, in the old days, if you had 20,000 majority, that's a seat for life.
Well, we just look at so many of these by-elections, Tiverton and Honiton, Somerton and Frome today, other places, Chesham and Amersham. There is no such thing as a safe seat anymore, and what we're seeing certainly in Uxbridge is a bit of relief for the Conservative Party, a majority of just under 500 there. They've held on. Ulez, massive issue there, and I think Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, will be under pressure on that one.
Well, he lost Labour that seat.
And Danny Beales as well, the candidate for Labour in Uxbridge and South Ruislip, changed his mind halfway through and decided he was actually against Ulez. So never underestimate the determination of people when there is a local, it's both a local issue, but it's a national issue as well.
And that's the point about a by-election.
Well, Birmingham, Glasgow, there are places like Oxford and Cambridge, the 15-minute cities, low-traffic neighbourhoods. I think people are really saying, hold on a second, we do care about the environment, but we also care about getting to work and not being charged £12.50 to do so.
Well, indeed, it feels increasingly like a dictatorial state where you're being told you can only drive at 20 miles an hour. We're going to make you pay to go shopping, for example. And the Ulez, as you know, is such a contentious issue, and it was done. And many people are saying the figures that Sadiq Khan wheeled out don't actually bear or hold up to scrutiny anyway. Do you think Keir Starmer's saying to Sadiq Khan, you need to rethink Ulez?
I think he'll have to. The question is whether Sadiq Khan will listen and say, well, hold on a second, I've won a couple of elections. I am a national figure in charge of one of the largest and, I would argue, greatest cities in the world, in London. Therefore, who are you to tell me anything? You've won nothing apart from a few by-elections. But Uxbridge will certainly be some sucker for the Conservatives. I spoke to a very senior Conservative 2 days ago who said, we're definitely going to lose all 3. And it wasn't expectation management. We were having an honest conversation. But certainly the Lib Dems will be very, very happy. The question is whether they can translate that into any form of national campaign, whether they will be a national force again. They're very good at winning by-elections, but where are the Lib Dems?
Well, so Benedict and I were talking about this earlier. Just in terms of the Lib Dems, I just don't see them making headway. You're right, they're really good at by-elections, but does that translate into a national trend? Benedict's view, I think, was very much it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does, and I think that, yeah, until you see that at a general election, I think you can't, you'd be a fool to make that prediction that it might translate into something.
Well, none of the, Benedict's absolutely right, and there's no poll either anywhere that's saying that the Lib Dems are doing anywhere nearly as well as they're doing in Somerton. So they are certainly a decent fourth force in the UK after the SNP, Conservatives and Labour, but certainly when it comes to Somerton and Frome, they've done very, very well. But then when you look at Selby as well, Labour had huge resources, thousands of people going there, senior members of the party like Lisa Nandy up there a heck of a lot as well. And I would imagine Keir Starmer probably on the road right now heading up to Selby for some sort of victory lap if we should, I would imagine, here in the next sort of few hours in regard to that. But certainly there will be disappointment that they haven't won Uxbridge and South Ruislip. There will be questions to be asked on that as well of the Labour operation there. But I think, never underestimate the power of a local issue or an issue affecting local people, especially in a by-election. But what's interesting as well, I think, is the trend in regard to the national polls 18 percentage points is how far Labour's ahead at the moment. If you put everything together, you're looking at about 21.
So that's dropped.
Well, yes, it has. It's gone down. I mean, it was 30 at one point, 25 at one point, but it consistently, nonetheless, for over 6 months. But we're in a situation where today's results, put all together, look at about 21% ahead, 21 percentage points ahead for Labour. So
if you
the polls are roughly correct.
But if you extrapolate that to a general, can you do that? And what sort of majority might that give Labour? Is that possible?
Well, you need a 12.6% swing for there to be even a Labour majority of 2. Now, that's a huge ask. It's up there with 1997, although there was a 12.8% swing of votes to Labour, which gave Labour its huge majority. But even in terms of the electoral arithmetic, although it'll be interesting to see with a lot of boundary changes as well, where things are. But you need a 12.6% swing. It's a really, really big ask for Labour to get a majority at the next election.
So the hung parliament territory, possibly?
I think so. And of course, you play the Lib Dems in there as well. They become a much more interesting. Or do you have a minority administration, given how badly the Lib Dems were dealt a hand after the last coalition?
There's one other thing that I think is really interesting, and you made the point earlier. It's about voting for people to essentially keep the other one out. So we're seeing a lot of these high percentages for the top 2. The Green Party came third in all of those seats, but actually in terms of percentage, it's not great. They did the best in Somerton and Frome at 10%. I see Reclaim got 2.3% in Uxbridge. Of course, Reform UK didn't stand there, and they didn't stand against Lawrence Fox. Can you read anything into this? Reform UK got 3.4% and 3.7%, respectively, which is well below what they're polling nationally. What does that tell you?
Well, I think the people were making a decision, essentially, who is going to become the MP here. Some of it was protest voting, some of it was tactical voting, but in terms of those smaller parties like the Greens, like Reform, like Reclaim, they really weren't at the party here because people were saying, essentially a very anti-conservative vote in a lot of these constituencies, including in Uxbridge as well, even though the Conservatives held on. But I would like to ask Lawrence Fox, have you been hurt in a political accident that wasn't your fault? Reclaim.
Peter, I don't know where to go with that, to be honest. Can I just ask you one more question? You've thrown me quite a lot there. Is there now going to be a reshuffle? That's what I was talking to Lord Hayward about. He said now is better time to do it than waiting till September.
There will be at some stage. I would be astonished if it's today. It might be next week, but my money's in early September. But I am the Professor Neil Ferguson of political prediction.
Well, how does that work, though, if they're going on holiday and if you get a phone call? Surely...
Well, you do what you're told by the Prime Minister, certainly. And also, the thing is that Rishi Sunak in his reshuffles has done it basically not by necessarily meeting the people, the walking up Downing Street. That theatre hasn't really happened under Rishi Sunak, so a lot of it can just be done by phone. But I would imagine, at some stage before party conference. The question is as well, in terms of a Labour Party shadow cabinet reshuffle, when does that happen as well? And do they happen on the same day? In which case, I think my head just explodes.
I think it does. Well, I'll let you go and, calm yourself down. I think I'm speaking to you later on this morning as well.
Yes, indeed.
Good. Thank you very much indeed.